It's on. It's hot. Good morning, everybody. About time for us to get started. A lot of folks not out of town, but just out of pocket today. The Stanley reunion over at the Stanley Church is today. So we'll miss them, but we're glad you're here with us this morning. Glad to be back myself from up in Tennessee. While I was up in Tennessee, I met again Brother and Sister Chapman, who are with us this morning. I was in a classroom. They had about, I don't know how many people those classrooms hold, 500 or 600 people, maybe more. No seats, so I found a corner and sat over on the floor up against the wall. And 65 years old and way overweight, I couldn't hardly get up after sitting there for an hour on the floor. Brother Chapman saw me. He came over and helped me out. So it would have turned into an ugly scene had he not been there. Good to have you guys from Florida, Sarasota, up with us today. Y'all remember the account in the Gospel of Mark where Jesus and the disciples were going across the Sea of Galilee? You're going to skip out on us too? All right.
Yeah, I thought it was next week.
They told me it's this week.
All right, thank you.
I guess I'll just go on with you since y'all are leaving.
See you next
Yeah, you're going to go too. We're going to bar the door, folks. Don't say any more. Let's just move on. Mark's Gospel, the storm at sea. Jesus had left an audience there on the coast, and he was going across the abyss, I think Luke calls it. And while they were out there, what happened? I can tell you what happened on the other side of the sea. They came to Gennesaret, or Decapolis, and a screaming demon came running down the mountain at Jesus. But between leaving the coast of Capernaum, and coming across the sea to Gennesaret, what happened? Oh, come on, y'all know this story. I'll give you a hint. Peace, be still. He didn't walk on the water at that time, but he did calm the sea. The sea was in an uproar, and Jesus, they woke him up from the bow of the ship or the stern of the ship, and they told him that they're perishing, and can he do something about this? There's a song written about it, and I wanted to sing a couple of verses of that song. It's number 189 in your books. It'll be on the screen. But think about the event of crossing the sea being in turmoil. But the song also speaks about the storm-tossed seas in our lives, not the literal ones, but those that are troublesome times in our lives. You all know it, so let's sing it passionately. Master, the tempest is raging, the billows are tossing high. The sky is o'ershadowed with blackness, no shelter or help is nigh. Carest thou not that we perish? How canst thou lie asleep, when each moment so madly is threatening a grave in the angry deep? The winds and the waves shall obey thy will. Peace, be still. Whether the wrath of of the storm-tossed sea, or demons, or men, or whatever it be, no water can swallow the ship where lies the Master of ocean and earth and sky. They all shall sweetly obey thy will. Peace, be still, peace, be still. They all shall sweetly obey thy will. Peace, peace, be still. Master, with anguish of spirit, I bow in my grief today. The depths of my sad heart are troubled. Awaken and save, I pray. Torrents of sin and of anguish sweep o'er my sinking soul. And I perish, dear Master. Oh, hasten and take control. The winds and the waves shall obey thy will. Peace, be still. Whether the wrath of the storm-tossed sea, or demons, or men, or whatever it be, no water can swallow the ship where lies the Master of ocean and earth and sky. They all shall sweetly obey thy will. Peace, be still. Peace, be still. They all shall sweetly obey thy will. Peace, peace, be still. Revisiting the fateful trip of Mark chapter 4, it's recorded elsewhere. The trip was a stormy one. The disciples feared greatly for their lives, and gripped with thoughts of their own personal demise and their weakness to do anything about it, they woke up Jesus and questioned him. How can you sleep? At a time like this, how can you be asleep? And Jesus stood up, he calmed the wind and the sea, and what was the next thing he did? After he, peace be still, he calmed the storm. What's the next thing that Jesus did? Say it again. One more time.
Ask Peter to go.
No, that's a different story. Peter asked that Jesus would come, that he could walk on the water, but that's another story in the Gospels. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly right. He rebuked the disciples. Why do you have so little faith? Or how is it that you have so little faith? And if you think about it, I mean, just put yourself in this scenario. Immediately surrounding them was the storm, the lightning, the wind, the waves, and everything. They're fishermen, so they're accustomed to this somewhat, but this was a terrible enough storm that it scared them. They were afraid for their life. We perish, Master. But this is not their first experience with the Master. The fact that they woke him up and asked him to do something about it tells me that they knew that he had something that he could do about it. If they knew that, how could they fear for their lives? Why would they fear? If God is in the boat with them, they know the boat is, or at least they should feel, understand, the boat is not going to sink as long as God is in the boat with them. But let's take it away from the immediate circumstance and go back a little bit in the history, just following the Gospel of Mark. They had seen the heavens split, rent asunder, and they heard a voice from heaven. It came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, was baptized by John in the Jordan, and immediately coming up from the water, he saw the heavens parting, the Spirit descending, and a dove lighting upon him. That the heavens parting, rent asunder, ripped asunder is the idea in the Greek. And a voice came from heaven saying, "This, you are my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." Had they not seen that, or at least been aware of that? This was a public event there at the Jordan River. Had they not seen him immediately thereafter in Mark chapter 1, confronting the demon-possessed man and casting out that demon? Did they not then go to Peter's home where Peter's mother-in-law was sick? And you think, sick? Well, a lot of folks get sick, just take an aspirin, you'll get better. Back then, you get sick with a fever, you die. There's no Advil, there's no medicines, there's no antibiotics, there's nothing to help you get better except the medicine of that day, which was limited. Peter's mother-in-law was going to die. I have no doubt that she was going to die, and he healed her with just a word. And the next day, that night actually, all through the night, all of Capernaum came to Jesus, bringing all of their sick, bringing all of their lame, bringing all of their diseased people, and Jesus healed them all, and the disciples were witnesses of that. Then there's the paralyzed man let down in the roof. Remember him? Born of 4 and let down, and Jesus did what? Not only healed the guy, but he pronounced his sins forgiven. Who can pronounce sins forgiven? Well, I can say it, but just because I say it doesn't mean anything. Jesus, being God in the flesh, pronounced this man's sins forgiven. They heard that. They understood that. Even the Pharisees who were in the room understood that, saying that he's claiming to be God. The disciples saw that, and they saw that doctrinal battle with the Pharisees and how Jesus won with authority. Mark chapter 3, there was the man with the withered hand. It says in verse 7, "But Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude followed him. When they heard how many things he was doing, so he told his disciples that a small boat should be kept ready for him because of the multitude, lest they should crush him, for he had healed many, so that as many as had afflictions pressed about him to touch him, and the unclean spirits, whenever they saw him, fell down before him and cried out, saying, 'You are the Son of God.'" The disciples who were in this boat, scared to death, they witnessed every bit of this. They should not have been so moved with fear, knowing that the Lord himself was in their boat. That's right. Their faith, or knowledge at least at this point, is growing. They saw his power over demons. They saw his power over disease. I don't know if he had resurrected anybody at this point. Later on, you got the little girl that was resurrected. I think actually when they came back across the sea, they went from Capernaum to Gennesaret, saw the demon cast out, the legion of demons cast out. Then they went back, and that's when he healed or resurrected Tabitha, I think her name was, from the grave. So I don't know if Jesus had resurrected anybody at this point, but they had seen his power over disease, his power to heal and cast out demons, but they had not, as you said, seen this power over nature. And they were shocked when, who is this that he can even control all of nature? But nevertheless, I think they had some comprehension that this Jesus of Nazareth, they're following him now as the Messiah, but they're coming to understand he's more than Messiah. He's God in the flesh. And they've seen his power demonstrated in so many ways. How many ever been at sea in a storm at sea? I haven't really been in a storm. I've seen one coming, felt the waves get a little tough. These guys, Jesus is in every point just like us, but he's not scared in the boat. I've been on sea a few times, not way out at sea, not crossing the ocean, but far enough to go catch some bigger fish, because the little fish are at the shore and the bigger fish are out there. Only I can't find them. I just go out there and stick my line in the water. But at any rate, there's been times when I've been out there that a storm cloud, unexpected, comes up. And when you're out there, way far away from land where you can't see the land, you begin to, when you see the waves build up, the clouds coming, the thunder and lightning in the distance, the wind coming, you begin to understand just how small a speck you are out there on that water. I've been on the little lake behind the house, 2-acre lake. Storm come up, I'm 10 minutes from shore. It doesn't scare me that much. I just want to get out of the lightning. But when you're 10 miles out at sea, or maybe if you've been further across the ocean, a big storm coming up, how does that make you feel? We're all Christians. We know that God is with us 100% of the time, but do you get scared? Well, I'll admit it. I get scared. Understanding how big the world is around me and how small I am on that boat, and how small that boat is when the waves are pushing and the wind's throwing it around. These men are men who had made their living on the sea. A storm at sea was most likely a common occurrence. They wouldn't go out in a storm, but it's a common occurrence, I suppose, that a storm would come up while they're out. This storm was of such a nature that they were scared to death. And yet Jesus is there asleep. You might say, well, he was God. And that's true, but he had divested himself of that glory to come here and save us. He became just like us in every point, and yet here in the boat, he's not scared. Is that because he's divine? Or is there something else that keeps him from being scared in that boat? Yes, sir.
Was he saying that they just, maybe you should just pray and ask the storm to calm?
I think probably he should. The question is Jesus asking them that they should pray and be calm? I think they should understand. He's asking them to understand who's in the boat with them. And he's not afraid. The one who's in the boat with them is not afraid. You should not be afraid. You should be able to have peace of mind, even in the midst of storm, during this time. But they are human. But their perception at this moment is, we're going to perish. They were that afraid. And Jesus says, I'm in the boat with you. Don't be afraid. And I want us to, we're going to be looking at Psalm 46 this morning to deal with this same concept. But what I want us to do is understand that Christ is in our boat. He is in our lives. Of what do we need to be afraid? Death? Do we need to be afraid of death? I mean, that's the biggest thing out there in front of us. Besides the pain that might lead us to death, the biggest thing out there in front of us is death. And what does Jesus say? If he's in our boat with us, what does Jesus say? He says to us the same thing he says to the disciples. Peace, be still. Know who it is that's in the boat with you. And I think that's a perfect illustration. That scenario is a perfect illustration of Psalm 46, verse 5, where it says, God is in your midst, or in the midst of in his case, Jerusalem, but I think in our case, the church. She, the church, shall not be moved. God shall help her just as at the break of dawn. Let's go back and read the first 4 verses to get the context again, then we'll continue in the psalm in our remaining time. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we shall not what? Let me repeat that. God is our refuge. Do you believe that? God is our strength. Do you believe that? a very present help, not distant, far away, a very present help in our time of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. That's what Jesus is asking them in the boat, and that's what he's telling us in our boat. You should not fear. Even though the earth be removed, what does that mean? Now we'll go back into all this, but what does it mean? If the earth were to simply dissolve around your feet, I will not fear. Even though the mountains be carried into the sea, earthquakes and such, I will not fear. Though the waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with swelling, I will not fear. I don't know exactly what the psalmist has in mind, an earthquake, the earth being removed, what all does that mean? But I can say it's an earth-shaking event. I've been in an earthquake. How many of you have been in an earthquake? I've been in the terrible earthquake of Kentucky of 1990. I was in the bathroom. The toilet shook. And that was it. Not much of an earthquake. Now, I've seen on TV the catastrophic effects of major earthquakes in Japan, California, and other places. Even though the earth be removed, I will not fear. God is my refuge. God is my strength. God is a very present help in trouble. And we talked about that word Selah last week. Pause, stop, think about what you just said, think about what you just sang. There is a river, verse 4, whose stream shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her just as the break of dawn. We went into Hebrews chapter 12 and Revelation 21 in our last study, where we were able to see that while this is a passage referencing Jerusalem to those Jews who lived in the time of David, it's a passage that references the Lord's church today. As we sing this song, as we make a song out of this poem here, we would be speaking of God's presence in the church. The holy place, the tabernacle of the Most High is with us, is among us. In fact, Revelation says, and Paul says it as well, that He tabernacles within us. He's talking about us. We are the city of God. And even though all be shaken around us, God is in His holy temple. Let all the earth keep silent before Him. He is our refuge. Doesn't mean we won't have troublesome times. It means He is our refuge in those times of trouble. He is our strength. Doesn't mean there won't be times of weaknesses and fear, but God is in the midst of us. He is our strength, our very present help in time of trouble. And to repeat, we shall not what? Fear. For a moment, let's stop thinking of the church as something separate and apart from ourselves. We go to church, the church is there. We are the church. The Christian is that boat. The church is that boat. And Jesus is with us. In times of peace, yes. But in times of trouble, when we're crying out, Master, the tempest is raging. What are the implications of that? What are our times of trouble that we can think of that we experience while being a part of Christ's church, while being in the presence of God and His kingdom? Do we experience times of trouble, seas of unrest? Do we? Yeah, all the time. This week, Janine had, from what I could tell, as I talked to Dr. Google after the event, was a stroke. It wasn't a stroke. But in reflection, at that time, that's the conclusion that we came up with, that was what was happening. I was afraid. I don't know what she was thinking. Yeah, I do know what she was thinking. But I was afraid. That was a troublesome time for me. I didn't know what to do. I resorted to home remedies. I turned out the lights. I rubbed her head, thought about an ice pack, and thought better of that. I went to Dr. Google and asked what to do, and he said, go to the doctor, go to the hospital. And then I prayed. And shame on me. Not for praying, but that I resorted to home remedies and Dr. Google first. My first effort should have been prayer. When you're fearful of your life, or in this case, my wife's life, prayer should have been my first thought. Going to God, who is our very present help in time of trouble. Shame on me that prayer wasn't my first action. I don't think God would, in the midst of trouble, as was implied, have us to go into our closets and pray and do nothing but get on our knees and pray. But I do think that God would have us in prayer, in communication with Him during our time of trouble. It should not have been my second or third thought. It should have been something I was doing as I was making efforts to make my wife well. And I regret that my first reaction was Google and not God. And as I look at this story in Mark, I hear Jesus speaking to me. Where is your faith? O ye of little faith. I need to do better at understanding God is in my boat. In times of peace or times of trouble, peace be still, he says. God is our refuge. God is our strength. He is our very present help in time of trouble. And we need to stop doubting that. Amen? I need to stop not questioning that. I don't question that. I just didn't go there first. I let fear take over. And David in the song says, because He is our refuge, because He is our strength, because He is a very present help in time of trouble, we shall not fear. I failed. I let fear take over. He says, God is in the midst of you, and you shall not be moved. God shall help you just as at the break of dawn. A word of caution as we look at this passage. The people of Jeremiah, his time, and Ezekiel's time, they would chant, Jerusalem is the city of God. We have the holy temple. His dwelling place is among us. But their lives were not consistent with someone who believed in God. Their lives were according to the flesh. Their lives were according to pleasure. They sought the things of the other gods and the other nations round about them. They did not live a life for God, and yet they're chanting, God is with us, we have the temple. God is with us, we have His city. No, you don't. When your life is ringing bells in the middle of the lesson, when your life, oh, it was an accident? Good. When your life is contrary to the will of God, you don't have access to the presence of God to say, God is with me, He'll save me in my trouble. We're bringing troubles upon ourselves when we go away from God. In Ezekiel, you'll find a couple occasions where Ezekiel very pointedly demonstrates that God's presence left first the temple and then left Jerusalem. God hit the wheel within the wheel. Maybe you remember that story in Ezekiel. God was leaving because they were so defiled and so defiling, so far away from God, and would not come back even with sending prophets and messengers to them, God says, I have to walk away. And he did. So we can't claim God's presence, refuge, and strength if we are not walking with him, if we're not choosing to be with him. He cannot dwell within us when we're living contrary to his will. Verse 5, he says, God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. That word moved, in the Hebrew, it means to shake, to totter. Maybe shake in fear, I don't know. Elvis sang a song about that, didn't he? What was it? I'm all shook up. I suppose that would fit here in verse 5. We will not be all shook up with our understanding that the presence of God is here. And I hope, we're probably not going to be able to finish the psalm today, but I hope that the scriptures can instill within you a confidence that as we submissively give our lives in obedience to Christ, Christ is with us, and we have no reason to be all shook up in times of trial. We have no reason to be moved. We shall not be moved because he is our refuge. He is our strength. He is our very present help in time of trouble. Paul says that Jesus Christ is your life. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. He says that God willed to make known what are the riches of the glory of the mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians chapter 1, verse 27. So, as a child of God, we have the promise of God within us. In our midst, yes, but the text goes on to say within you. Not within the church building, but within you, the church. As a group, as an individual, we have the promise that God is with us. The point of Psalm 46 is that with him present, when God is in the boat, so to speak, we've no reason to totter. We've no reason to be all shook up. And then he ends with that phrase again in verse 3, Selah. Take a moment, the psalmist says, the Spirit says, to realize what you just sang, to realize what you just said. The last 4 verses, I think, are nothing short of magnificent. We'll read them. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariots in fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts, the God of the angel armies, literally, is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Imagine an ancient or modern battlefield that hasn't yet been cleaned up. The psalmist invites us to go and view the mute reminders of war. The terrain is strewn with the litter of battlefield aftermath, chariots overturned, burned, rusty, bows, spears, other implements of war covered with dust and debris, maybe blood. He's trying to get you to imagine that in your minds. And maybe you've seen such pictures in encyclopedias or on Google. We don't do encyclopedias anymore. Beaches of Normandy. What do you think of? Thousands of dead bodies. Thousands of implements of war. We've seen Hiroshima. We've seen the streets of London during World War II and the air raids. We've seen the Twin Towers and the destruction that came there. Most recently, the destruction that's happening in Ukraine. When you look at these war remains and consider what took place there, I think we should consider that not just the physical destruction that you see, but those buildings that you see in the distance, they were apartment buildings, housing hundreds, maybe thousands of people. These are lives destroyed, not just property. Maybe to make it more personal, we should see it as that could have been me there, but by the grace of God go I. That could have been my family. That could have been my daughter's house that was destroyed. And the psalmist wants us to bring that to our mind. You go to Pearl Harbor, you can see the remaining aftermath of the Japanese invasion there, and the psalmist is inviting you, come. Behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth, who makes wars to cease to the end of the earth, breaks bows and cuts the spear in two. He burns a chariot with fire. In Moscow, we traveled through Moscow going to where we lived once or twice a year in Russia. And one time we went to I don't know if you went or not, but I went to a museum, a three-dimensional, huge replica of World War II. And in that sculpture, it showed bodies destroyed, dead bodies, destroyed cities, homeless, unnamed, maimed children, war machines. And as you walk through the hall of that memorial, there's silence. We were in there, I was in there with hundreds of people. You don't hear chatting, whispering, it's just silence. No one has to tell the quiet, shh, quiet. We know that quietness is fitting in such an occasion. The psalmist says, look at this and be quiet in respect for God, who makes wars cease, who breaks the bow and shatters the spear, who burns shields with fire. Be still, be quiet. Be calm. Know that I am God. We're going to have troublesome times in our lives. May it be that your first resort in those troublesome times is go to God in prayer. Know that His presence is among us. Doesn't mean that He's going to pluck you out of the fire. Sometimes He doesn't. We can look back at the martyrs of the first century, maybe martyrs even today. For His reasoning, not for any empty reason, but for His reasoning, for His plan for the future, sometimes He lets us suffer. But even in the suffering, what does God want us to do? Be still. Know that I am God. The Psalms are a great place to go when you're in trouble. David, not the author of all the Psalms, but many of them, a lot of times he starts out saying, I'm in trouble. A lot of times of his own doings. Sometimes it's because of the enemy. But he starts out, I'm in trouble, I'm scared, I'm afraid. And sometimes he's rebuking God, where are you in my trouble? But he always ends up in the psalm praising God because you are always there. And there's a lot of things we shouldn't learn from David. But there's a lot of things we should. As a man after God's own heart, a man inspired of God to write these songs, we should know God is there. Amen? Doesn't rescue us from our dangers always. He doesn't take away the cancer always. He doesn't pluck us from the fire always, but He's always there. And we will overcome eventually. Even if we don't overcome the threat that's before us, even if we don't overcome what's coming against us in the boat, don't fear. The one who can control the wind and the sea, the one who can raise the dead, He's in our boat. Be still and know that I am God. The Lord of hosts, the Lord of the angel armies, is with us. The God of Jacob. I'd like to talk about that, but I don't have time. Remember Jacob? Not much good is said about Jacob. He's a troublemaker. That's what his name means, troublemaker, or one who usurps, one who cheats. The God of Jacob, who rescued him from his own doings, is with us. That's what I get from that. God is there. Even if you brought the trouble upon yourself, turn to God, recognize that He is there. God will pull us through. If not in this life, into the heavenly portals. Thank you for your attention this morning.